The release of BT12 across time has shaken up the meta with new waves of support for older archetypes. But I believe the older blue flare strategy is fully viable against current threats, even without any new major additions. We've covered flare in the past, so for this guide I won't be going into full detail on every single card. However, if you need that, I'll be linking our older flare video below. Also consider for any cards I talk about, with current Ultimate Cup rulings, any non-blue cards will not be legal and are only relevant if you're taking the deck to locals or regionals. When constructing a blue flare deck, it's generally considered that there are a few guaranteed cards that will not change. You should be on full playsets of the Gaussmon that plays out a suspended blue flare level 4, the Greymon that searches up 2 pieces, the male Bergermon that can get you a free Kiriha or recycle a metal Greymon, and the Kiriha Tamer himself. Blazing Memory Boost is also a 4 for many, but some have been cutting it to 3. I can't fully agree with this, as the advantage one receives from going second from it is unmatched. However, it's something worth considering in your own testing. 5 memory can be steep, but fetching 2 pieces, playing a memory set or tamer, and being redeemable for 2 memory can serve to even the most dire of openers. Finally, there's the Metal Greymon, who is your finisher, defensive stun piece, and a base to plug additional forms on top of. This represents either 23 or 24 locked-in slots of your deck, which can make finding space for everything else a bit of a challenge. But in this video, I'll break down some pieces you can play and the reasons for including or not including them. First off is eggs, and a clear winner is BT11 Wanyamon, who lets you draw a card on attack if you have a blue tamer in play. Blue flare lives and dies on the pieces it has in hand, and as such you are always looking for more draw power, and Wanyamon is easily the most consistent. For your 5th egg, there's Upamon, who lets you draw an attack if your opponent has a Digimon with no sources, and Bebidamon, who draws an attack if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon. Both of these are fine, but in testing I found myself not burning through eggs to the point I want a 5th one. Furthermore, the conditions of Upa and Bebi are harder to meet and can leave you missing a critical draw at certain points. For additional rookies, the immediate consideration is Dracomon from BT11, who offers a static onboard draw 1 when you play another blue flare Digimon, and his inherent gains you a memory when you play a blue flare Digimon. Both of these effects can have great utility, and one of blue flare's best opens is a Gaussmon on board and a Dracomon in raising. With a Greymon in hand, you can promote the Dracomon, throw away the Gauss into security, and pick up a total of 3 cards. His inherit can also reduce your Digicross Metal Greymon to 2 memory, which opens you up play extensions with Hammer Spark. Flare thrives on 3 or 5 memory, enabling most lines of play, so finding ways to eke out an additional memory is infinitely useful if you've lost your Kiriha. Next up are our floodgates, Madoki Betamon and Syakomon, and in testing both have been useful. Memory blocking is always good as there's so much incidental gain or boosts and is amazing in the mirror. Syako has his place too, being solid against the Bloom matchup and disabling the BT10 Greymon X, while at 1 is often a death knell in the Greymon matchups, which can be very difficult for Flare. These will change depending on if you're attending the Ultimate Cup or Regional for BT12, as the spread of opposing decks will be different. Test your ratios to preference, but I've been using either 2-2 or 3-1 favoring Madoki. Finally, as of BT12, we've finally gotten the security rookies, and Belucomon is great, offering a draw 2 from security before adding himself to hand. Sometimes this can be enough to find either your Metal Greymon, removal, or something like Ice Wall to seal a game. Currently I've been testing builds with 2 copies, but I wouldn't call him necessary. Moving to level 4 slot, we have Decardramon, who has lost his 4 status. However, he can still serve to fix hands missing pieces, and can often draw you as many as 4 or 5 cards from a stunned board. Being one of the lone viable buff effects is also worth mentioning, especially his 1k buff being all turns. I've been running 3 in my current build, but like with Dracomon, running at least 2 is important to keep up blue flare numbers in a deck. There's no worse feeling than seeing a Blazing Memory Boost whiffing because you only found 1 flare card and a Kiriha. A 1 of Hybrid is also worth considering, especially as Kiriha in multiples does not always offer much benefit. For this purpose, I found myself running the new BT12 Lanamon, as she lets you grant her jamming by tucking a blue level 3 card from your hand at the bottom of any one of your blue Digimon. Jamming will make sure she survives an attack, letting you extend your play further into potentially an armor form on top, providing either a bottom deck or a stun. Compared to Kumamon, I don't find his singular trash as very valuable, nor the tower potential of Korikakumon. Finally, for level 4s, I'll pay some service to ST1 Greymon, who can accelerate your aggro game plan, but I don't see a Metal Greymon surviving those checks due to low DP. Yes, given the right setup, you can put that Greymon underneath a Metal Greymon, put an armor on top, while tucking the unsuspending Greymon underneath, but in practice this feels like a magical Christmas land scenario. In testing, I've only found reason to run a 1 of and ordered up Greymon names in the list. With the tightness of space, I can't find a reason to include it. Moving to level 5s, I'll also briefly mention BT10 Cyberdramon, who from hand lets you pay 3 to tuck it in a stack to unsuspend a blue flare Digimon. Mixed with the Decardramon buff he has as an inherit, I've always felt underwhelmed by it, and he's an easy skip. Moving to our first armor, we have Decker Greymon, who can Evo for 4 on a level 4 or for 2 on a level 5 and has a hefty 10k body. He stuns if you have a Decker Dramon stack, is infinitely useful against tower decks, and is the secret to winning the War Greymon or Machine Dramon matchup. It's also easy to grab him in multiples and do Metal Greymon stun into Mailbird stun into his own. Your Decker Greymon count is proportional to your Decker Dramon numbers, and I don't see a reason to go below a 2-2 or 3-3 spread. Next is Metal Greymon Cyber Launcher, who possesses great utility. With both an on-play and on-Digivolve effects to bottom deck an opponent's level 3 or lower Digimon, he can also bottom deck a level 4 if you get a Cyber Dramon in the sources. This card counts as both Cyber Dramon and Metal Greymon, removing the need to run Cyber and having interactions with Mailbirds on play as well as one of our level 6s. His removal range is sufficient as memory blockers ruin our day, and there are so many rookies and level 4s on board. He can serve to be beneficial against Bloomlord, removing cards like Clockmon, or any of the myriad level 3 searchers and other strategies. He obviously benefits from himself, so 3 copies can be good, but for space reasons I've been running 2, a number I feel you can't go below. Similarly to ST1 Greymon, you can get a 1 of Metal Greymon X, however I don't think his 3k buff gets your Metal Greymon high enough to survive in most security. In addition, he only has 6 or 7 targets in deck to Evo on top of and completely loses all of your inherits. It may be worth testing, but I don't buy the hype. For a level 6 slot, Zeke Greymon is a house of a card, unsuspending himself, evoing for 2 off of a Metal Greymon names, and potentially gaining 2 memory if an opponent has 2 or more Digimon. On deletion, he saves himself and lets you tuck a Blue Greymon and Male Birdramon from trash under a tamer with general traits such as Kiriha. This level of recovery from trash can put you in a winning position if he doesn't close out game, and from a defensive perspective he offers blocker on Inherit. This is an easy 2 or 3 of and should go in any Flare deck. For tamers in addition to Kiriha, some decks have been on a 1 of Yuya, who offers buffs and option protection. However, with his own memory resetting, he feels mediocre in conjunction with Kiriha. There's also Soren Joe, who offers stripping on attack, and Soren Mad, who can bounce back a level 3 and have a decent memory plus for cards in hand. And then finally there's the Trio Tamer, who offer a card tuck, memory gain, and a singular draw. But the issue with all these tamers is finding the time to play them. Consider the best open for Blue Flare, having a Gaussmon, Mailbird, and Kiriha in hand, which can effectively serve to get you your memory resetting tamer for free. Furthermore, there's Blazing, who can incidentally get you a tamer along with other resources and memory. When you're paying 4 for one of these, you're losing valuable tempo that could be towards closing the game. I think Kiriha alone is enough. With the release of BT12 came a surprising tech in the form of Cross 7 Superior Mode. This card does a lot. With a 15 play cost and 17k DP, he has a condition for his on-play if you take a Shoutmon. This allows you to use your trash when digi-crossing, but it's something we obviously won't have access to. The thing that makes us look at him is the on-play, which returns all of the Digivolution cards from one of your opponent's Digimon to the bottom of the deck, and then bottom decks that Digimon. The trashing of source is followed by bot deck, Duck's Most, removal, prevention, and that's not all. He also doesn't check opponents' options in security. Finally, he possesses Digicross 1, and you can tuck as many sources as you want underneath him as long as they have Blue Flare or Cross Hearts and traits. This allows you to potentially burn your resources from hand or tamers to get them decently low, depending on how large your grip is, but even then, going -5 for what works as a 10 cost removal isn't appealing. The reason he's been seeing play in OCG topping Flare lists is because of his Blue Flare trait, making him able to be tucked by the level 5 armor forms. Then the play is to make usage of Kaiser Nail to play him out for a cost of 4, nuking an opponent's Digimon and presenting a 17k body to be dealt with. Consequently, you can also do a similar play using Vanilla X7, a 13k Digimon who deletes an opposing Digimon with DP less than his. More important than that, he possesses Rush as a keyword, which can be very useful for pushing into a win. While definitely a powerhouse play, being a combo requiring 3 cards, a body to Evo on top of, as well as the Kaiser Nail not being able to be searched, it's definitely on the gimmicky side. Now, admittedly, Nail alone isn't a bad card in Flare, letting you play out a rushing Metal Greymon or any of your on-play champions, as well as working with the Dracomon Inherit to gain you back a memory. It's something to consider, but may not be good enough for regionals, and is not legal in Ultimate Cup, at least in regards to playing either of the X7 forms. For the last of your options, I found great luck with 2 Hammer Sparks, which can help choke, soften the blow of Blazing Memory Boost or hard-played Kiriha, or get you to 3 after you lose a Kiriha. While I'd ideally want more, 2 has been very sufficient, also working as a great security hit to seal back turn. Next is Sorai, which is a great stun piece and very useful against Bloom, or stripping pieces from Machine or Greymon decks to help push off recently teched Ragnarlordmon combos. However, while I used to be on 3 or even 4, I think 2 has been sufficient, sitting in hand when you need it, and working very well with Ice Wall, a mandatory one of an A blue deck. For proper removal, Cocytus Breath is consistent, but too often you're giving back a resource, especially in the case of Quartzmon. Currently, my replacement has been Great Maelstrom, which can reduce its hefty 9 memory cost down to 6 if you tuck a blue Digimon at the bottom of another Digimon you control. For this trade-off of potentially having to play it for 9, you get to bottom deck the opposing Digimon, which is a premium form of removal for Flare, a deck looking to close out game before that card even cycles back. Furthermore, the tuck can be used to get Zeke's blocker online potentially, a defensive play which can buy you the time you need to survive an otherwise unwinnable board state. The cards I covered are what I believe to be the most relevant cards to test in Blue Flare over this format. I think that this deck has definitely been underrated, and much like Blue Hybrid before, it has a level of resilience to keep going into the future. Learning the deck now is also a great decision as EX4 grants it even more valuable pieces that I'm very excited to discuss on that set's release in the West. When playing the deck, your mini-game is to poke away while assembling resources like Digimon, Tamers, and Memory Boost before pushing for an Alpha Strike. Your opponent will be doing their best to avoid putting 2 bodies on board, so use that to your advantage. Take advantage of the new Mulligan rule. It's often worth going into any open with a Gauss and a Greymon or male Birdramon if paired with Kuriha. Here in the video and link below I've put my current Blue Flare build, the one I'll be taking to Ultimate Cup. This one seeks to strip it down to a sleek and consistent version, ready to play a tempo game to victory. How do you feel about Blue Flare? We've talked about it a bit here at Gordo's Games. Are you thinking of trying it for the upcoming format? It's also a very budget deck, which is a plus. Also, we have some great thumbnail art today from friend of the channel Ridge. You can find her Twitter below in the pinned comment, along with great Digimon art. Thank you all for getting us to 600 subscribers. We're not stopping anytime soon, with more guide-style profiles, as well as other discussion-style content on the horizon. Until the next video, this is Tepid with Gordo's Games. As always, stay safe, and have a great day.